Hey, what's good, y'all? This your boy BigDogg Tawk Sports. Salute to the whole team, the Behind the Bench Network podcast, the whole squad, Kobe Bryant Film Room, Jacoby, Rashad, Kelvin. Salute to all the subscribers. Salute to everybody that support, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 10 greatest centers in the NBA from the 1990s. Let's get to it. Now, before I get to the top 10, I wanted to mention some honorable mentions of some great centers who played in the 90s, but was not top 10, at least in this point of their careers. The first one I want to talk about is Moses Malone. He played in the 90s decade from 1990 to 1995. He played with the Atlanta Hawks, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the San Antonio Spurs. Now, Moses Malone, back in the 80s, he was that dude. At one point, you could argue he was the best player in the NBA, and I'm talking about in the league with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. He was an MVP. He won the NBA championship with the Sixers back in '83. But in the 90s, he was no longer in his prime. His best season in the 90s is when he was playing with the Milwaukee Bucks in the 91-92 season. And he was still putting up 15 points, 9 rebounds a game. But Moses Malone is one player I'd like to mention who played in the 90s, who's a Hall of Famer for sure, but he just wasn't top 10 at this point in his career. All right, so the next player I want to mention is Ben Wallace. He came into the league in 1996. He played with the Washington Bullets and the Orlando Magic. His best seasons of his career, of course, was with the Detroit Pistons, where he was an NBA champion, NBA Defensive Player of the Year, and all that. But, in the 90s, he wasn't Big Ben Wallace at this point of his career. But he was there. He just wasn't a top 10 player at this point in time. But shout out to Ben Wallace. All right, the next player I want to talk about is Robert Parish. Hall of Fame player. He played up to 1997. In the 90s, he played with the Boston Celtics, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Chicago Bulls. Now, he debuted in the NBA in 1976 with the Golden State Warriors. The best parts of his career was with the Boston Celtics through the 80s, where he was a 3-time NBA champion. And he had a couple solid seasons in the 90s as well. He was an All-Star in 1991, but he wasn't the chief too much after that. He did win another NBA championship, his final season in the NBA, playing with the Chicago Bulls. Robert Parish, Hall of Fame center, one of the all-time greats, but no, he was not a top 10 center in the NBA at this point in time. Last but not least, I want to mention Arvydas Sabonis. The Arvydas Sabonis came to the NBA after dominating in the European leagues, winning multiple championships and MVP awards. He came to the NBA in 1995, played up in 2000, all his seasons with the Portland Trail Blazers. To be honest with you, even though he was still a pretty good player, especially 97-98, we averaged about 16 points, 10 rebounds. He was not his prime anymore. He wasn't too athletic, but he was a skilled big man who had the ability to shoot and pass the ball. And like I said, even though he wasn't in his prime anymore, he still was giving you 16 and 10. But he just wasn't a top 10 player in the NBA, a top 10 center in the NBA for the 90s. Now, maybe he could have achieved that if he played through the, most of the decade, but it is what it is. But Arvydas Sabonis, he was a damn good player. I just can't have him top 10. But he is, honorable mention. All right, so let's get into the top 10, y'all. And this is my opinion. I'd like to see y'all opinion in the comment section. But it's my opinion. Top 10 centers of the NBA in the 90s. Number 10, I got Ronnie Cycli. He played from 1990 to 1999. He played with the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, the Orlando Magic, and the New Jersey Nets. Now, when it comes to, the big men of the 90s, I never really see people talk about Ronnie Cycli. Excuse me. He never made an all-star team. He's not going to make the Hall of Fame. But, bro, he was a beast, though. Like, Ronnie Cycli was a pretty good center, man. He'd get you 17 points, 11 rebounds. He had a wet mid-range jumper. And he was a damn good interior defender. I think we get so caught up in talking about the same players, we forget there's a lot of great players who played, in the NBA. Ronnie Cycli was a great player. Now, he wasn't a Hall of Fame player, but he was a great player. Solid 17 or 11 every night. Great defender inside, man. So I got Ronnie Cycli number 10. Number 9, I'm going to roll with Vlade Divac. He played through the whole decade. He played for 3 different franchises: the Los Angeles Lakers, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Sacramento Kings. Now, he did become an all-star, but that wasn't until 2001. But he was solid through the whole decade. Vlade Divac, if you don't know too much, nice mid-range jump shot. He was a great playmaker at the 5 position. Very underrated defender as well. He could get you 2 blocks and a steal or 2, He gets you 16 and 10 as well. Like I said, he was a pretty good passer for a center, man. Like, I can imagine Vlade Divac playing in today's era. I'm not trying to say he'd be Nikola Jokic, but his passing ability would make him a dangerous center in this era. His best season was 94-95. He's giving up, putting up 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, 4 assists, 1.5 steals. Very skilled offensively, pretty good defender. I roll with Vlade Divac at number 9. All right, so number 8, I'm rolling with Rick Smits. He played the whole decade with the Indiana Pacers. He helped the Pacers become one of the best teams in the East throughout the 90s. Now, 7'4", he could have been a better rebounder, but he was offensively gifted. He would comfortably knock down 18-footers. For a big man, he had a feathery touch, and he also had a hook shot in his arsenal. He was a good defender as well. Now, if you are the stat nerds who look at just, blocks per game, you would think, well, he's not playing no defense. But his height caused, opposing teams to rethink driving to the basket or, shoot the mid-range when he was around. So he's not going to have no Dikembe Matumbo blocks per game numbers. But believe it, he was making a difference on defense. Now, his best season statistically was 95-96. We averaged about 18.5 points and 7 rebounds. I got Rick Smits number 8. Okay, so at number 7, I'm rolling with Brad Daugherty. He played from 1990 to 1994 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, he didn't play that long in the 90s, but he was dominant. He's a 3-time All-Star from 91 to 93. He give you about 22 points a game, 11 rebounds. He was a pretty good passer from the center position. He made All-NBA in the 1992 season, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, he had to retire in 1994 at the young age of 28 because of back issues. He was great on both ends of the floor, highly skilled. If you're a young basketball fan who don't know too much about the legends of the past, go check out some Brad Daugherty, man. He was an animal, man. He was a beast. He could face you up. He can hurt you with his back to the basket. He's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. Brad Daugherty, man, number 7. Sadly, his career was short because of injuries. But he's number 7 all time for our centers of the 90s. Okay, so at number 6, I'm rolling with Dikembe Mutombo. Now, Matumbo came into the league in 1991, drafted by the Denver Nuggets. He also played with the Atlanta Hawks in this decade. Now, Matumbo, he was not only one of the greatest defenders of the 90s, but Matumbo was one of the greatest defensive players in NBA history. This man made 6 All-Star teams in the 90s. It was not that major of a threat when it comes to scoring the basketball. He made 2 All-NBA teams in the 90s. He led the league in blocks 3 times from 94 to 96. Now listen to this. Now you in the league with Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, Shaq, and you dominating blocking shots. Matumbo, he also made history in 1994 because of his defense. He led the Nuggets to a first-round victory over the Seattle Supersonics, who was the #1 seed. If I'm not mistaken, they had the best record in the NBA as well, their Sonics team. He helped the Nuggets become the first 8th seed to advance to the second round. And in that series against the Sonics, Matumbo was averaging 6 blocks a game. That man was dominating on the defensive end. Because you see the 6 blocks a game, you're not even seeing all the other shots, he was interrupting or had the other team afraid of taking. Stuff you don't see on the stat sheet. But yeah, I got Matumbo number 6 as far as 90s centers. Alright, so number 5, I'm rolling with Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning debuted in the NBA from 1992. He played, of course, through the whole decade and in the 2000s. Played with the Charlotte Hornets and the Miami Heat. He's a 5-time All-Star. He made 2 All-NBA teams. Alonzo Mourning was a force to be reckoned with. Now at 6'10", he was shorter than pretty much all the great centers. But at 260 pounds, he was not to be played with. Imagine Dwight Howard with a tad bit more offensive skill. That was Alonzo Mourning. He had a solid jump shot, but his bread and butter was in the paint where he got physical as hell. He was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He was defensive menace just like Dwight Howard was in Orlando. And he'll give you 21 points and 10 rebounds to go along with 3 to 4 blocks a game. He helped the Miami Heat become one of them dangerous teams in the Eastern Conference. I used to love watching them games with him and the Heat against Patrick Ewing and the Knicks. But I got Alonzo Mourning number 5. Number 4, I have Patrick Ewing. Now, he played the whole decade with the New York Knicks. And sadly, Patrick Ewing has become one of the most underrated and underappreciated players in NBA history. He made 6 All-Star teams in the 90s. He was 5-time All-NBA. And 1990-1991 was probably his best season statistically, as he averaged 26.6 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3.2 blocks. He and the Knicks reached the finals twice in 94 and in 99. Unfortunately for himself and the Knicks, in 94 they lost in 7 games to the Houston Rockets, and in 99 they lost in 5 games to the San Antonio Spurs. Sadly for Ewing, he wasn't even able to play in the 99 finals because of injuries. Offensively, it wasn't too much Ewing couldn't do. Defensively, it wasn't much Patrick Ewing didn't do. He was an animal with the basketball, the face up, back to the basket, mid-range, turnaround jump shots. He'd drive to the basket. And man, he was an elite defender. Patrick Ewing was truly one of the all-time greats. And I got him number 4, man. He was called the Beast of the East for a reason. And he had the Knicks as one of the most dangerous foes to the Chicago Bulls in that run. Patrick Ewing, number 4. Number 3, I'm rolling with the Admiral, David Robinson. Now, he played the whole decade with the San Antonio Spurs. He pretty much played his whole career with the San Antonio Spurs. I'm at 7'1", 250 pounds. David Robinson, he was the perfect mixture of strength, athleticism, and skill. which made him a monster at the center position, a defender's nightmare. He had the perfect blend of the strength, the height, speed, agility, all that. He's an incredible scorer, incredible defender. He was a 8-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA. He won the MVP in 95, scoring champion 94, 8-time All-NBA defense. He was Defensive Player of the Year in 1992. He won the NBA championship in 1999. It pretty much, there wasn't anything David Robinson didn't do in the 90s. Now, I know in 99, when the Spurs won the championship, he gave the keys to Tim Duncan to be the leader of the team. But it's not like David Robinson was just there for the ride. He was still putting up 16 points, 10 rebounds, and he was still a lead on defense, averaging 2 blocks a game and a steal. So it's not like he just gave him the keys and, he became a bum. Like, nah, they were the Twin Towers for a reason. David Robinson, though, he's number 3 in the 90s. Salute to the Admiral. All right, number 2, I'm rolling with the Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal, 1992 to 2000. Now, as great and as dominated as Shaq was, for him to be considered the second best center of the 90s, to show you how great number 1 is. Hell, some people may even have Shaq number 3, just for the 90s. Some people may have him behind David Robinson. I personally, I put him, I edge him above David Robinson. But, it is what it is. He was a beast, man. 2-time scoring champion, once in 95, one in 2000. He got to the finals twice. Those same seasons, 95 and 2000. Now, in 95 finals, he got swept by the Houston Rockets, who was led by the number 1 guy on this list. But in the year 2000 with the Lakers, playing alongside Kobe Bryant, he was able to get that championship, that first one. Shaq, 7'1", 300 plus pounds. He was strong as hell. And, he's the most dominant player since Wilt Chamberlain. But he wasn't a snail either, man. Shaq was athletic as hell. Shaq would go coast to coast on a fast break. And the best business decision a defender could make was moving the hell out of his way. In the 90s, Shaq was a 7-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, and he made All-NBA defense 1 time. So I got Shaq number 2. If y'all believe he should be 3 behind David Robinson, let me know in the comment section. I'm rolling with Shaq at number 2, though. All right, and at number 1, he's not only, in my opinion, the greatest center of the 90s, he's arguably top 5 centers of all time. He's one of the greatest players to ever step on the court, man. I'm rolling with Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon, he's one of the few players you could say have no weakness in his game. Some of the greatest footwork I ever seen, if not the best of this day. He was dominant offensively and defensively. He won back-to-back NBA championships in 94 and 95. He's the most valuable player in 94. He made the All-NBA team 7 times in the 90s. 6-time All-Star, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. 5-time All-NBA defense. He led the league in blocks twice. And Olajuwon was so great that most people who watched basketball and knew what was going on back then, even after all the greats I mentioned that played center, like the Patrick Ewings, the Shaquille O'Neals, the David Robinsons, Alonzo Mournings, all those guys, as great as those other guys was, people would still say Hakeem Olajuwon was clearly the best center in the NBA. Clearly, no debate. For you young guys, man, please go watch some Hakeem Olajuwon, man. Please go watch some Olajuwon. But yeah, I'm rolling with Hakeem Olajuwon, man. I think it's not even a debate in my opinion. I just feel like he was just clearly the best center in the NBA. And I'm rolling with Olajuwon, man. Tell me what y'all think in the comment section. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Please hit that like button, share, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Behind the Bench Network. Subscribe to BigDogg Tawk Sports. And I'm out, man. Peace.